leveled entire neighborhoods and burned through nearly a quarter of a million acres.
Today the weather is cooperating, but we are going to go back into red flag again, and that's going to be an issue that we will have to keep a close eye with low humidities and potentially wind for the next couple days.
The magnitude of the loss only grows. The Petaluma home of Peanuts creator Charles Schultz destroyed, along with all his personal memorabilia. His widow evacuated and survived. The fire spared nothing, even a Santa Rosa fire station gutted. Crews now doubling efforts to cut lines, burn out brush and undergrowth, and prepare for hot, dry winds in the days ahead.
And this is what you are looking at. Fires from Northern California all the way down south. Just dozens of fires burning. They are starting.
Well, we want to show you now where these fires are burning this morning. We're going to start with the Tubbs fire. That blaze has spread to more than 35,000 acres that have been scorched, but it's now 44% contained as of this morning. A significant number of structures have been destroyed. The Nuns fire, which also includes the Norbum, Adobe, and Partridge fires, together they have burned over 46,000 acres, just 10% containment this morning. But the biggest fire is the Atlas fire. It's now burned over 50,000 acres. It is up to 45% containment. We'll be right back.
Scale of the damage is really coming into focus right now. Look at this drone footage right here. It shows the town of Santa Rosa. It's just laid to waste right there. Our senior national correspondent Matt Gutman is there. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning, George. When you see those fires on the march, you get a sense for why officials here are saying there's no hope of stopping these fires right now. They are only trying to slow them down. Now, there is an army of firefighters out here from 1,000 different departments, 5 different states. Now, this was the Cardinal Newman High School. You can see what the intensity of these fires can do to places like this. And
scenario.
These fires are just literally burning faster than firefighters can run.
Overnight, the wind's picking up speed, spreading the fire at a feverish pace. This scene a chilling reminder of the brutal conditions that more than 8,000 firefighters face here. As this home burns to the ground, firefighters must give up and focus on saving the houses not yet in flames. And as communities into ghost towns, just shared by Travis Hahn, shows
live coverage of our continuing coverage of our fire canceled. But just be sure to take a mask with you. Something we have to. It's the new normal, right, Dave?
It seems to be, right, and there doesn't seem to be anything that's really going to kind of clear out this atmosphere at all in the immediate near future. Here's a snapshot, if you will, out of Petaluma this morning, and again, pretty much those smoky skies we've been talking about to be found there. Heading to Berkeley, looking over the east Berkeley Hills off and towards the bay, it's still that haze from that offshore wind that we've been discussing, because some of these valleys can channel.
Bay Area Air Quality Management
readings, and air quality looks very unhealthy throughout the weekend. And as you said, it is changeable depending on which way the wind. Our valley substantially as well. I mean, unfortunately, in the Bay Area, there's very few places you can go where you're not going to have unhealthy, for sensitive groups, to unhealthy air quality.
What tips do you have for people who might be thinking about a Saturday morning jog or a soccer game with their kids, that type of thing?
Well, a jog is not advised, and even with a mask on, not advised. Air quality is just too canceled soccer for the kids today, and I'm assuming that in lots of parts of the Bay Area, sports are being canceled. I know that football games at high schools yesterday were canceled. So sports are getting canceled. We're getting called about that. We're getting called about that regularly.
Yeah.
And so people are certainly erring on the side of caution to protect children's health, because children and the elderly, especially young children, are most susceptible because they draw in so much more air.
The shocking images I saw were
levels in China. We're in a very bad situation, and unfortunately, unless you get out of the area, there's really no getting away from it.
Yeah.
A friend sent a photo that they were in Monterey yesterday, and it's beautiful skies there. but we're not finding that here.
Yeah. All right. Lisa Fasano with the Bay Area Air Quality Management District. Thank you so much for spending a couple minutes with us. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Sonoma County overnight, strongly advising homeowners.
Good morning. I'm standing. This is what it looked.
Been working nonstop since Sunday. They're fighting extreme exhaustion, with some men catching sleep whenever they can.
We have dozens of firefighters who've
road. And what we're seeing, this one home swimming pool in the backyard, and it is completely intact. Then you just go across the road and you see dozens of homes that have been completely destroyed. We'll be right back.
With their fire station gone and no time to head home, they share a meal on the front lawn of a family. The kids in the picture live here, the niece and nephew of one of the firefighters. What's even more disturbing for some of these first responders is what they're finding in remnants of burned homes, the remains of victims of the blaze.
Some of these remains are actually intact bodies, much easier to identify, much easier to get things from. Some of them are merely ashes and bones.
Yet they go on, working endless hours. Fred Leuenberger, who took this photo of his colleagues having dinner, wrote, "We've slept off and on in engines, pickups, hose beds, etc. And more long hours may be ahead."
Finally tonight here, our Persons of the Week. They are California strong. Tonight, the heroes and the bravery in California. Vicki Walker hugging this firefighter to say thank you. Firefighters across California saving lives, homes, and so many family treasures. And this image, the mail truck still stopping at mailboxes. A haunting moment, but still a moment of dedication. The Sonoma County Sheriff Rob Giordano, who told me about one deputy who saved families standing with them on a dirt patch. The fire all around them.
We had a deputy on top of Mark West who had 40 people with him and they couldn't get out, and the fire just burned around him and they just sheltered in place as it went around.
They were
them.
surrounded by the fire.
Yep.
Then there was the iron worker who lost everything, his tools, his pickup truck, his home.
Every house was on fire, including mine.
Dana Hansen's story was on the local news that night, and someone 50 miles away was watching.
I heard iron worker, and I looked over, and I caught his last name.
Her son was also an iron worker. She lost him to cancer 2 years ago. She had always saved her son's tools, and she called up Dana and said, "Come get them."
Dana? Yes. How are you?
Okay. How are you?
I'm good.
Inside, her son's tools given to Dana.
Means a lot to me.
Well, I'm only get you back to work.
She wants to get him back to work and California back to normal. And so we choose those first responders and those everyday heroes who answer the call.
Many family heirlooms I've thought my whole life I'm gonna
die. And what I can tell you is that we got 3 tankers in the air right now. Those 3 tankers just south of Highway 12, which is Ridge Park. This is a 3,900-acre park. I can see a lot of smoke. The smoke is blowing in the southwest direction. And once again, we have 3 tankers fighting the fire.
If they are making much of an impact.
At least 4.5 to 5 miles wide at this point. I don't see too many structures for 45 to 50 horses that I pass while walking toward this fire. Once again, it's completely evacuated. Wind
safe as you continue to take mandatory evacuation orders are in place in Sonoma Valley. Now here's the specific area we're talking about. 7th Street East from East Napa Street to Denmark Street. North side of Denmark Street from 7th Street East to Napa Road. Then 8th Street East north of Denmark Road. East MacArthur Street east of 7th Street East and East Quail Run Way and Hamblin Road. Now, as Henry mentioned, there are also mandatory evacuations also in effect for parts of Santa Rosa, specifically east of Calistoga Road to the city of Santa Rosa city limits, and also north of Melita Road, that's where Henry has been, to the city of Santa Rosa limits. Now, this includes all of the Skyhawk, You heard him talk about the Oakmont subdivision and much of Rincon Valley as well. The order is to evacuate your homes immediately. And now we want to go to Dave Spar with more on the winds that are causing so much havoc in that area. Dave?
Yeah, and the bad air quality, too. Good morning, Marty. Good morning, everybody. Bay Bridge shot here. Here's the familiar haze that we've been talking about, it seems, well, basically all week. It's still with us. We were talking with the folks at the air quality office, and they've been telling us about the inversion today. This really is providing a little bit of relief for that. Red flag warning goes out until about 11 o'clock today, even though the winds will be particularly towards the east. Most intense winds appear to be in Solano County and up in northern Napa County. Also, humidity levels with what we've been reflecting over the overnight have been very dry air in Napa and Solano County. Not as much in Sonoma County, although still a lot of problems happening there. Somewhat relatively shielded by all of that until 5 o'clock. This goes out until Sunday too, but I cut it off because there's not much more upstream in terms of winds to be problematic. We're going to have a lot more on the wildfires going on in the North Bay. The Cron 4 morning.
The fight to preserve what's left is far from over.
All right, let's go.
Crews in Calistoga are battling not just the weather, but the terrain as the fire creeps up steep hillsides.
They're everywhere. You know, there's little pockets, there's parts that we just can't get to. You know, we just saved some houses down the street, and there's no better feeling though, you know?
Jason Stevens has been living in this parking lot since his apartment burned to the ground. All of his other possessions are gone.
Those things can be replaced, but there's a lot of things that can't, that people have lost. I consider myself fortunate.
As Ben spot here and just rotate around, you can see the homes just
fires in California history. But the battle is far from over. New body camera footage shows a sheriff's deputy braving the flames to rescue a disabled woman and to get people to flee to safety. The good news may be short-lived. Firefighters are bracing for more dry and windy weather today.
The fires have killed at least 35 people and forced more than 90,000 residents from their homes. More than 5,700 homes and buildings have been destroyed. Carter Evans is in Santa Rosa with the latest on the fire. Carter, good morning.
Good morning. The fire wiped out entire neighborhoods like this one, and this is what thousands of people are going to find when they're finally allowed to return home. You know, the firestorm raged through town in the middle of the night, and
evacuations that were ordered overnight early this morning. The mandatory evacuation orders are in place in Sonoma Valley. We're talking about the area 7th Street East from East Napa Street to Denmark Street. North side of Denmark Street from 7th Street East to Napa Road. 8th Street East north of Denmark effect in Santa Rosa. And the area we're talking about is Skyhawk, Oakmont, and much of Rincon Valley. And you're being
here in the morning and attack the fire.
Is very side of caution as opposed to waiting a little bit before announcing a mandatory evacuation.
Emails and Facebook messages from people asking me, where is the fire actually at? And it's important to note that, yes, in determining whether or not your home is okay, where the fire is at is important. But no, if you're in a mandatory evacuation zone, regardless of if the fire is currently on your block, you need to be evacuated. When you get a mandatory evacuation notice, you need to get out.
Yeah, and one thing to keep in mind as well is that many times the evacuation orders are given to allow official personnel and fire crews to get to the area more quickly. Isn't that correct?
That is correct, and it's also really important to note that our fire personnel and our public safety personnel have their first and foremost priority to be saving lives. And if they are worried about search and rescue and finding people within the evacuated zones, they're not all rescue and more resources to fight the fire. It has been. You know, I was born in Santa Rosa and I was raised here, and it is difficult to see a community-changing event happen. But I will tell you, the will of the Santa Rosa people has been strong, and just as I expected from the get-go, they have pulled together in a way that you would expect a community like Santa Rosa to do so. They've embraced one another, they've taken care of their neighbors, and I'm extremely confident that once we have this
week, it has to be so heartening for you to see your friends and neighbors coming through the way they have.
Absolutely.
Chris Rogers, thank you so much for spending some time with us this morning. That's Chris Rogers from the Santa Rosa City Council. We'll be right back.
That is the craziest thing I've ever seen. It's hollowed out the tree. There's a fire in Shelville, and it's going straight up the middle of a tree. That is nuts.
Ginger?
Yeah, at least 5 school districts are shutting down colleges and live coming traffic, and you can see why. This is the inversion traps that smoke, and they can't fight the fire until they can see. So a lot of times they can't get up to later in the afternoon. Air quality alert going into the weekend.
What are you supposed to do? Yeah, everybody. Everybody you've ever known, everybody I grew up with, everybody's house is gone. It's absolutely nuts.
Brady Harville grew up in the heart of what is now a moonscape. But in the Iraq War veteran's poem is the cherished sliver of steel he came searching for.
Your personal dog tags?
Yeah, the ones I deployed with. It was like all burned up now.
Wow.
After I deployed, I gave them to my dad, and he had them hanging in his man cave.
You got goosebumps right now.
Yeah, I do. It's crazy. It's mind-blowing.
Tonight, thousands of Californians are sifting through the charred remains of their houses.
This is my neighbor's house.
While residents fleeing these apocalyptic scenes.
This is
Let's go. They're literally burning fast.
The King James Bible.
Air quality management district. The unhealthy air is going to continue at least for the next couple of days. So they are urging everyone to think twice before you head outside, and at the very least take a as scheduled at the Coliseum.
Tomorrow, too, the air quality folks that we had on the phone earlier made the very good point, not just the inversion that we talk about in the morning hours, certainly that we had this morning, but after that's said and done, we are parked with this high pressure overhead. That's falling air. It doesn't allow the air to vertically mix as we normally get when the sun joins us. Here's the forecast calling for today. Unhealthy all over the bay, as you will notice. Technically in the north, it's not listed as that, but they have local winds, as we've been talking about, that projected that we're showing, or even that the wind advisory is. But we have a dry atmosphere, and really we have a dry atmosphere for Sunday as well. Complements also that high pressure cell overhead. So we have the winds right now, you can see in the teens in some areas, a little shielded out to Santa Rosa, although we're having a lot of problems in Sonoma County still, and elevated humidity levels where they're somewhat shielded there, contrasted with elsewhere in the North Bay where they're much drier with that thrust coming in from the northeast and the north. Futurecast winds, we'll probably deal with the winds for the next 4 to 6 hours or so, and much of the rest of, well, tonight and even into tomorrow, winds really won't be a factor, except maybe highly locally that might be the case. But we have the dry atmosphere left over. Here are the projected humidity levels for today, dropping off to single digits there. I checked the dew point values because that's what we like to look for in our trade. That's the absolute measurement of moisture in the air. And when those numbers are lower, you always have drier air. Well, in some cases, it's below freezing. In other words, your ice water will not sweat. Well, ice water cup. So as you can see for tonight, the low humidity levels continue into Sunday afternoon. That's natural sometimes for those levels to drop a little bit during the day, but these are very low numbers to be dealing with. The temperature change also tells the tale because we've had winds moving. That hasn't allowed temperatures to fall overnight, and they also provide a little bit of local heating too, particularly when they get funneled through those passes and through those valleys. And that's what we keep stressing too. The local areas can have local wind directions, local wind situations based on the topography. So we'll keep you updated on that as well. Marty.
All right, Dave, thanks a lot. Want to get the latest information now from CAL FIRE on how the situation is breaking this morning. We're going to go to Scott McLean for that. Scott, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
I was wondering if you could give us an idea on where the hot spots are this morning.
We put out evacuation notices and mandatory orders out early this morning. The fire did develop and went across a couple areas just north of Highway 12 on the Moons fire. It progressed across and is going up and down those different draws. The fire behavior is very erratic at this point in time due to the topography and the various types of winds that are affecting. Now I'm looking behind me. I can see the smoke. It's not as aggressive as it was before, but now we have the sun, so we're getting heat on that fire, so the humidities will continue to drop. There's several helicopters and aircraft that are dealing with that, as well as all the ground resources that we have. Down on the lower south southwest side of the Moon's fire. Between that fire and the community of Sonoma, that area did push out and has burned over 300 acres. It's pretty much following the perimeter of the fire down there. It has encroached into the outskirts of some structures. It has done some damage, but so far it's stirring the community of Sonoma.
Mm-hmm. One thing that we've been hearing throughout the overnight hours and into this morning was the historic town square of Sonoma might be in the path of the fire. Is that still true?
It's real hard to determine. We're dealing with erratic fire behavior, with erratic winds promoting it. We did evacuate certain eastern points and eastern side of Sonoma, the community of. So, I mean, there is potential, but I'm not going to, get that aggressive as far as that. So far, it has passed that, and it's burning along the perimeter. So anything can happen at any time, and that's what we need to get out.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the air assault that's planned for today on some of the various fires?
Air assault, we had a couple air attacks up over these fires at 8 o'clock this morning. We have over 30 helicopters assigned to pocket fire on down to the air tankers as well. They pumped over 330,000 gallons of retardant yesterday. We're just breaking records as far as getting aircraft and retardant on. Keep in mind, the aircraft that got the retardant, the ground troops go in there and reinforce. So it's a component of the aircraft, the dozers, the hand crews, and the engine crews all working in concert with each other.
Yeah, working together on that. Scott, thank you very much for that update. We'll be checking with you throughout the morning. That's Scott McLean from CAL FIRE. Our coverage continues right after the break.
As we mentioned, there are 22 major wildfires burning, destroying more than 3,500 homes and businesses. More than 170,000 acres have burned.
The worst of the fires are burning in wine country across the North Bay, threatening Santa Rosa, Sonoma, Fairfield, and Napa. The city of Calistoga now under a mandatory evacuation order. All of Geyserville is either under mandatory or advisory evacuation. The East Ridge community of Fairfield is under an evacuation advisory, and officials have ordered a voluntary evacuation for Healdsburg.
And this fire was fast, and it came up about 3 miles up that ridge, like just in no time at all.
We got out, but I will never, ever wait that long again. It just, we kept thinking that it was going to be better than it was, and it wasn't.
You walk by your neighbors and everything's gone.
It hurts. It's going to take a long time to recover from this.
It takes your life away. The things that
Evacuations are in effect in the community of Geyserville because of the pocket fire. CAL FIRE is worried the winds will push it right into town.
KPIX 5's Ann Makovic is live in Geyserville this morning with the very latest. Ann.
And the winds have been very unpredictable here. Highway 101 is on this side. Downtown Geyserville is on this side, and you can see the fire here burning in the hills. This is to our north, and winds have been increasing overnight, especially over ridges and slopes. So the concern is obviously that the fire could move this way.
And Camila, what can you tell us?
Good morning, Marty. So I was able to go into the mandatory evacuation zone. I am on Laval Valley Road, and a lot of the residents that were outside of that mandatory evacuation zone were asking me about their houses here in this area. And what I can tell you is, as I was driving in on Laval Valley Road, the houses before this hill all seem to be okay. I haven't been able to go up the hill, so we don't know exactly if the fire has reached in the hill, but I was able to see definitely a lot of smoke up in that mountain and up in the air, so I'm not in effect. In Sonoma Valley, the mandatory evacuations are on 7th Street East, from east of Napa Street to Denmark Street. They're on the north side of Denmark Street from 7th Street East to Napa Road, on 8th Street East north of Denmark Road, on East MacArthur Street east of 7th Street East, on Quail Runway and Hamlin Road. Now over in Santa Rosa, the closures and the evacuations are on east of Calistoga Road to the city of Santa Rosa limits, and north of Melita Road to the city of Santa Rosa limits. This includes all of Skyhawk, Oakmont, and much of Rankin Valley. They're asking you to evacuate your homes as soon as possible and to stay away from the area, to respect the roadblocks. Now, this morning I was able to see some of the flames. Right now, the flames are working to contain that fire and to keep it away from this area as much as possible. And then they're just asking the residents to be careful and to be very vigilant on their run out last minute.
That for being in a
good, but it's not good, Marty. It's just have all of their gears. So even though it doesn't seem or it doesn't look like it's bad, it is bad.
Okay, thanks for straightening that out. That's Camila Bernal reporting for us live from Sonoma. Want to turn our attention now, talking about air quality, want to turn our attention to not only that, but also the strong winds that's making it difficult for firefighters, and with the latest on that.
But we've been hearing about a lot of the problems inside. It was relatively shielded overnight, as Nevada was as well, in terms of that thrust of very much dry air. This is the legacy we're going to have to deal with going forward in the weekend forecast. Temperatures also tell the tale, too. 52 Nevada, 66, for example, Napa. They've been warmer than everybody else this morning because of that offshore wind effect that we've been having. 11. Tomorrow, continue dry. Although the winds subside, we're going to be banking off a dry atmosphere up there really until Monday morning. And then next week, minor early warming, and then showers middle to latter portion of next week. That'll be a nice treat. Looks like it's a good possibility. We'll be monitoring that as well. Marty.
That's something to look forward to. Okay, thank you very much, Dave. Want to go now and give you the latest information from Sonoma County. And let's go to Spencer Crum, who's with the Sonoma County Sheriff's Department. Spencer, good morning.
Good morning. East from Adobe Canyon to Calistoga Road throughout the entire Skyhawk subdivision.
How many homes or how many people roughly are we talking about here?
I don't have that exact number, but I know that up to 3,000 people stayed in shelters last night. We currently have 21 shelters open in the county.
Okay, and what's the situation at the shelters? Are people getting everything that they need, as far as you know?
Yes, nobody's gone hungry. There's plenty of food, plenty of drinks, and we still have room for more people if you need a place to stay or you need a meal or anything that meets your needs. Stop in at a shelter, please.
Mm-hmm. And the situation as far as the evacuation in the Santa Rosa area, we were talking about Sonoma, Santa Rosa, things went smoothly as well, or how did things go?
That's my understanding. From everything I'm hearing, it was smooth and orderly. There's always a few people who want to stay home and protect their homes. We don't advise to do that.
Some of the major hot spots
in the Ledson Winery up in the hills. I know they're up there working. We have a lot of fire staff on scene from all around the state, and I couldn't be happier about the response of all the firefighting equipment and people that have come in to help us.
But as far as the Sheriff's Department goes, what are your main focus for today?
Our main focus is just preserving life, safety, getting people out that are in the way of danger, and getting them to shelters. And we have some traffic issues we're working on, and then we still have the crew who are going around doing search and rescues and recovery of potential fire victims and locating missing people.
Okay. Spencer, thank you so much. That's Spencer Crum from the Sonoma County Sheriff's Office. Just give us an update on the situation there. Thanks a lot, Spencer. We'll be right back.
At least 22 fires burning. Thousands more were forced to evacuate overnight.
Hundreds of people are still reported missing. California's top fire official is calling this a critical, catastrophic event, saying the fires are burning faster than firefighters can run.
And the scale of the damage is really coming into focus right now. Look at this drone footage right here. It shows the town of Santa Rosa. It's just laid to waste right there. Our senior national correspondent Matt Gutman is there. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning, George. When you see those fires on the march, you get a sense for why officials here are saying there's no hope of stopping these fires right now. They are only trying to slow them down. Now, there is an army of firefighters out here from 1,000 different departments, 5 different states. Now, this was the Cardinal Newman High School. You can see what the intensity of these fires can do to places like this. And with the death toll here rising to 23 overnight, the focus now is not saving property, it's just saving lives.
Officials are calling the inferno a worst-case scenario.
These fires are just literally burning faster than firefighters can run.
Burns to the ground, firefighters...
It's my business, and I'm not letting a fire take it.
Mandatory evacuations turning thriving communities into ghost towns. And an eerie silence now hanging over the small town of Calistoga in the heart of wine country after police miles away. There, the fire swept through so fast that many first responders and residents were trapped. This video, just shared by Travis Hahn, shows his dramatic escape as the wall of fire tore through his neighborhood, and so many couldn't make it out at all. We arrived at this mobile home park just as the fire swept through what she already feared.
I hear the smoke alarms going off, and she's coughing, and I'm telling her I love her, and she tells me she's gonna die. She can't get out of her house. She's gonna die.
This mobile home park has been reduced to a field of ashes. And just minutes ago, a victim was identified here in the rubble. And law enforcement tells us that when you look at the tops of those melted mobile homes, you can understand why they believe that there are more victims here. And from above, the view, nothing but the grade smudged outlines of where so many houses once stood.
And when you look at this from up above on that camera there, you can see how disastrous this was for this school. There were 600 kids here, and right there you can see air conditioner units that have fallen through behind me. I think you can make out those file cabinets and servers right behind them. All of the school's books, all of the school's servers.
This morning on Cron 4, we're going to go to Sonoma and want to go specifically to Camille.
Happening since we went to sleep and are now awake. What has happened?
Well, actually what's happened is the wind has started to pick up a little bit overnight, and about 3 o'clock in the morning they had a wind event that was pushing the fire toward containment lines, and there was some issues with structures being threatened. So they dispatched a number of strike teams out of the base camp over in Santa Rosa to come this way to protect some structures. I can't speak to how many structures were lost.
No, they were asking me about their home. So do we know which specific areas?
Well, it's supposed to be peaking around 10, I believe. However, the
Fighters, how long have these crews been out here? How many crews? You know, are they on 24-hour shifts?
I can tell you that these are extremely professional firefighters from all over the state. We're very fortunate to have such a response to this area.
And so we've also been talking a lot about the air quality. What do you say to those residents in the area, the ones that are still here, in terms of that smoke and what's coming?
Yeah. If you have any respiratory difficulty,
Fire Department getting an update on the situation in Sonoma. Rockland, of course, north of Sacramento, gives you an indication of where the crews are coming from. Our coverage continues right after the break.
Electric company out here says it notified fire officials right away, and they are now investigating. Charlie?
Thanks, Carter.
They're 85 years old, and I just don't know if they can rebuild. I mean, so many family heirlooms I've thought my whole life I'm going to inherit these someday. This is what I'm going to pass down to my kids. Oh, God, I can't. All your life savings and work for all the years is gone. Since we've lived here 10 years, I never thought that Santa Rosa would...
Beautiful sky, but this is it. We're trying to find which house was ours.
Went to bed about 12, and my one dog, she's really alert to things. She started barking and just wanting me to check on stuff. It was really windy. I went out front, wind's blowing, ashes coming down. Just grabbed my keys, my truck, and my dogs, and took off. I'm just glad to be here. Glad to have my dogs. You know, you can replace the stuff, but life's most important, so.
Fires are still out there. They are still actively growing. Resources still continue to be limited. We have folks on the fire line starting their third shift right now that have not been relieved.
Some of the evacuation centers that have opened in the fire zone, Cook Middle School and Sebastopol Road in Santa Rosa, Elsie Allen High School on Bellevue Avenue in Santa Rosa have opened. Annalee High School gym on Annalee Avenue in Sebastopol also open. And the Finley Community Center on West College Avenue in Santa Rosa has opened as well. And Santa Rosa Veterans Building at 1351 Maple Avenue in Santa Rosa, also another evacuation center, as well as the Sonoma County Fairgrounds at the Grayson Finley Pavilions. That's at 1350 Bennett Valley Road in Santa Rosa is open. Also, a new staging area, a new evacuation staging area just opened at the former Fireman's Fund building. That's at 777 San Marin Drive in Novato. Now, there's available spaces in Santa Rosa at the shelters there, but Marin County officials are providing this space as an overflow. We'll be right back.
Everybody you've ever known, everybody I grew up with, everybody's house is gone. It's absolutely nuts.
Brady Harville grew up in the heart of what is now a moonscape. But in the Iraq War veteran's poem is the cherished sliver.
Goosebumps right now. Yeah, I do.
Their houses.
This is my neighborhood. In flames.
It started to get real hot inside my vehicles.
Hospital patients whisked away on gurneys as the flames marched towards them.
These fires are literally burning faster than firefighters can run.
And continues to spread.
But when you get up close, it's gutting to see the burned remains of possessions that people probably held most dear, like this King James Bible. And when you look at the density of the debris here, how hard it is to pick your way through here, you can understand why just minutes ago, officials here located a victim, and why they tell us that beneath the melted roofs of those mobile homes, they expect to find more.
Bob Tunis's mother's home at the Journey's End trailer park was in the path of that firestorm.
She woke up, there's fire engulfing everything.
House, his sister arriving, 20,000 people displaced, over 3,500 structures damaged or destroyed, at least 21 lives lost, and hundreds still missing.
The sky was filled with, it seemed like, a billion fireflies from all the embers.
Most of the out-of-control wildfires are wreaking havoc in the northern part of the state, where there are 19 active fires. But on Monday night, another fire broke out hundreds of miles south in Anaheim Hills, setting the backdrop for these haunting images of Disneyland. All of that eye-stinging smoke visible from space. And on the blistered earth, stories of unimaginable loss.
This is pretty much all that I can see that's left.
In Napa County, brothers Chuck and Mike Rippey sift through what's left of their parents' home.
Fire doesn't care.
They told my colleague.
We're back on Chron 4 News Weekend. Our live coverage continues as we take a live look outside at the Golden Gate Bridge from Sutrocam. You can see those hazy skies, and smoke continues to fill the skies around the Bay Area as it has all week long. In fact, a lot of outdoor events have been canceled this weekend because of this smoke. The Air Quality Management District says that you should stay inside if at all possible, because it's just unhealthy air that you're breathing if you take a step outside. And be sure to wear a mask if you are headed out, and as in the winds. From Dave Spar.
Well, Marty, good morning. Good morning, everybody. And the bad air quality would be around again tomorrow as well. Here's a picture for Seminole. Now, this riders are battling those winds. This takes us out to 1, 2 o'clock. Was bad air quality that the high pressure system had brought me. So we're going to start Monday cast, not in the immediate future, not the atmosphere. 71 San Francisco.
Thanks a lot. I want to show you a map now of
help them in that. She did earlier today.
3 on this Thursday morning. High winds in northern were near being contained. This morning, several new communities are under mandatory evacuations, and more than 200 rise. As we mentioned, there are 22.
The worst of the fires are burning in Washington and Napa. The city of California.
Ever wait that long again.
Santa Rosa is one. Alley High School gym at 6950 Alley Road in Sebastopol are all evacuation centers. Also, the Finley Community Center at 2060 West College Avenue in Santa Rosa, and the Santa Rosa Veterans Building at 1351 Maple Avenue, also in Santa Rosa, and the Sonoma County Fairgrounds at Grace and Finley Pavilions at 1350 Vado. Now, this is just today. FEMA will be opening a disaster relief center in Santa Rosa. Victims of the firestorm will have a chance to fill out paperwork for personal documents like a driver's license, or you can file an insurance claim. The center opened at 9 o'clock this morning on the first floor of the Press Democrat building in downtown Santa Rosa. That's 427 Mendocino Avenue. Workers are expected to stay until early this evening.
4,000 acres, mainly northeast of Geyserville, and fire and safe air and hand crews and dozers have been only volunteers.
8,000 firefighters are trying to stop 22 California wildfires from killing more people. Windy conditions this morning are pushing the flames. At least 23.
Santa Rosa talked to one woman who says her family barely had enough time to escape. Maria, good morning.
Well, good morning. We are in the Coffee Park neighborhood, one of the hardest hit areas from this fire, where there is literally nothing left. As that fire was fast approaching on Sunday night, neighbors turned into first responders, going door to door to make sure everyone was safe.
It's devastating. It literally looks like a bomb went off.
When Heather Bowers saw ash raining down in her front yard Sunday night, she became the neighborhood emergency alert system.
They were like, "What's going on?" I'm like,
"This is the Bay Area's news station." Chron 4 News starts now with breaking news.
And the winds have kicked up overnight, forcing new evacuations for some 400 homes as wildfires continue to rage. Now, the fires have caused an unprecedented amount of death and destruction here in California, with officials now report when mandatory evacuation order Denmark Street from 7th Street East MacArthur Street east of 7th, reinforce Santa Rosa as well for the limit, Skyhawk, Oakmont, and much. And that is the latest that we have along Highway 12 in are located. The first one is at Allen High School on school gym at 60 West College Avenue in Santa Rosa, and the Santa Rosa and this new evacuation that's in Novato. Now there's
has reduced, but the smoke has to try to keep it away from Strasbourg. They haven't given me exact area. Extra crews in this area and the flames increased. They had to bring extra crews. Areas on 6th Street winds are shifting, and as we mentioned, they have to pick up their
Good morning, Marty. Good morning, everybody. The live shot here for you, the Bay Bridge. Looks a little clear to the north. Novato, where at 2 o'clock is the early afternoon. Marty.
Which way the wind, possibly Monday, East Bay, and its impact. Very few places you can go where you're not going to have unhealthy, for sensitive groups to unhealthy.
Jog.
Mask on is not advised. Air quality is just too. They've canceled soccer for the football games at high schools yesterday. On the side of cost, the air is just filled with unhealthy.
Of the Bay Area air quality.
No, we are seeing levels that mirror levels in China. We're in a very bad situation, and unfortunately, unless you get out of the area, there's really no getting away from it.
Yeah.
A friend sent a photo that they were in Monterey yesterday, and beautiful skies there, but
Okay.
we're not finding that here.
A couple minutes with us. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
At least 22 large fires are burning in California at this hour. Carter Evans is in Santa Rosa, where firefighters are still having trouble getting into some burned out areas. Carter.
You can just imagine how in parts of California, the same ground.
There's been fires that just blow through. This has been
half the size of Los Angeles. Extremely dry conditions. Gusty winds, some topping 75 miles per hour, are changing. Some of these firefighters have been.
Dozens of firefighters who've.
Fire broke out shows fires on their roof and begged first responders to save their house. Meanwhile, some are returning to the most devastated areas for the first time to see the damage up close.
This is absolutely devastating. It's heartbreaking. It is crushing. This looks like another planet.
98% of all wildfires are caused by people, but it is still not clear what caused this one. And there were reports of very windy weather, downing trees, power poles, and power lines. Before the fire began on Sunday, Pacific
Gas and Electric, the electric company out here, says it notified fire officials right away, and they are now investigating. Charlie?
Thanks, Carter.